There was a saying that if you've committed a crime, you'd absolutely get punished. It's a saying that almost never came to fruition. There was another saying, if you were to go to hell you'd have to pay for all your wrongdoings. No matter how small. Of course, I didn't agree with that one either. This wasn't really a saying, and more of something I experienced myself. If a situation was just too incomprehensible, a person's thought process would turn rather simple. In a certain office, I was forced to make a certain choice by some sour-faced woman wearing a suit. It was rather complicated, so let's put it simple. Simply put, this thing called hell existed, and I think I'd die. The cause of my death was also rather simple. It was acute myocardial infarction due to high blood pressure, which caused a cardiac arrest. My blood pressure suddenly went up like this because of a malicious comment I was reading. That's why I've been told. My blood pressure went up because of some bad comment, just for that reason. Really? Do people always have to die for great reasons? There are a lot of people who died just by slipping on an fantasy road. Alright. Hurry up and make your choice now, even if I didn't want to believe it. I didn't have a choice in that matter. Anyway, I was in hell now. It was up to myself if I took the right down. I just had to sign. I was forced to make a choice that I never thought I ever have to make. There were some lines written on this form that I was more than familiar with. The city of the dead surviving in the ruined world. The hunter became a manager, the trash returned somehow. The game became reality. But I'm just a janitor, the demon king is dead. These were all titles of novels I wrote. My charges were being a repeat offender and having no prospects at all. For that I was to be sent into the world of one of the novels I wrote. So, I'll get sent into one of my novels, yes. As to which character or novel you'll inhabit is up to chance. Shit. Anyway, the punishment I had to endure was being sent into a random character of a novel I wrote and surviving until the end. If I managed to do that, I'd get sent to heaven. Apparently, there were a lot of people that just got sent straight to hell, so I had it good. That's how the Grim Reaper tried to console me, though that didn't really work. As it is a novel you wrote, wouldn't you know everything about it and what would happen in it? This can't even be called a punishment, now can it? In fact, wouldn't it be rather easy for you? This story took place after the death of Demon King after all. Our main character became the Demon King's son. The Demon King's son wasn't a character that even made an appearance in my novel in the first place. She told me that I'd get put into a random character. However, I actually got something that couldn't even be called a character. An unlucky person would break their nose, even if they fell backwards. That's what she told me. Didn't I just die because I got too mad about some comments which led to rise my blood pressure? Just as I was relieved that I drew the safest novel, I got put into a position in which I'd die right at the start. I wouldn't even be the Demon King, but just a prince. It would have been much better if I were the Demon King, for example. If I were the Demon King, I'd also be the highest level existence of the demon realm. So I could have just stayed put, surrendered, or ran away. Even though the Demon King dies right at the start, he's not to be trifled with. However, I was just a prince of the demon realm who just turned 17. Despite getting deceived by this novel, fortunately I was still able to find out who I actually was. A game-like screen appeared before me. I never put this setting into my novel. So was this something those guys who sent me here gave me out of pity? So, in terms of tropes, I was in a fairly common situation, in which an author somehow ended up in his own novel with a game system. However, no matter how common the trope was, it would never feel like a familiar situation if it suddenly happened to oneself in reality. I didn't appreciate this convenient ability in the slightest. Shouldn't the kin of the Demon King be of a different caliber? Archdemon was a rather simple species. That wasn't my current condition, basically the worst of the worst. This guy had no fighting capabilities. I saw something that seemed like an ability to rule over all demons, but all around me were just dead demons. What a hellish situation. It was the start of the prologue. Event quest, downfall description. The defeat of the Demon King's army is imminent, but you're powerless to do anything. Do your best to survive. Goal: escape the Demon King's castle. All I could do was run. I didn't even pay attention to that mysterious system window that appeared in front of me. Crazy. There's nothing I could do to stop the war. It seemed like the Demon King and the hero's party were already fiercely fighting. Inside the Demon King's castle, the violent explosions and thunderous roars made me realize that this bloody war was really happening outside. There were shouts, screams and cries of monsters as a siege was taking place. They seemed to have already broken through. Comment me if you want a second part of this video.